Ooh, take a look at this. Is this a town or a village? What do you think? Is it a town or a village? What's the difference? Well, in this lesson, I'm going to teach you. Hey, if you like getting tips like this, I'd be so happy if you subscribe to my channel right down there. Okay, so I would call this a village. Okay, when I look at this picture, I think village. Okay, what about this? Take a look at this. Well, here there's only one house, right? But, there might be some other houses around here. This looks like a jungle, right? It could be a small village in the jungle. Okay, now what about this picture? Do you think this is a town or a village? Well, to me, it looks like a village. Okay, I would definitely say it's a village. So when I think of the word village, I think of three things. Okay, I think of small. A village is just a small place. Not too many people live there, okay? Also, remote. Remote means far away, sort of isolated, far away from civilization, like a city. Okay, the word remote can also mean a remote control, like this, the remote control for my TV. But in this case, it means, far away, isolated. Okay, also, I think of undeveloped. Undeveloped, not too many, modern conveniences, services, maybe like internet, right? If I think of a village, it probably doesn't have internet. So I think of those three things when I think of the word village. Now, Canada does not have villages. Did you know this? Canada doesn't have villages. We don't use the word village to talk about any places in Canada. We don't use the word village. We have towns. Okay, so take a look at this. This is a typical small town in Canada. Okay, this town has about 4,000 people, right? So it's just sort of a normal town, small, medium kind of a town, right? So I think when most people think of the word town, they would, think of a place that has less than 10,000 people. Okay, less than 10,000 people. Some towns in Canada are really, really small, like 50 people. Like 40, 50 people or 100 people, those would be very small towns. I would say a medium town would have maybe around 3,000, 5,000, right? And maybe a bigger town would have, maybe like 7,000 or 8,000, right? And I would say a city has more than 10,000 people. Okay, so I think, when most people think of the word city, they think of a place like this, 10,000 people that would probably have at least maybe one or two big malls, right? Some big stores, probably like, just general things like a fire station, a police station, maybe a hospital, probably a hospital, right? If it's got, 10,000 people, definitely a hospital. Some small towns, don't have hospitals. Some towns do, right? Most towns in Canada have hospitals. But, if it's a small town, it wouldn't have a hospital, right? It would share, like maybe one area would share one hospital, like maybe some small towns in an area, okay? But yeah, most cities in Canada have, I would say a medium city has between 50,000 and like maybe 200,000 people. And a big city would have more than 200,000 people. Like Calgary has 1 million people, just over 1 million people. So Calgary is one of the biggest cities in Canada, right? But most of the other cities are smaller, less than 1 million, maybe like 500,000 or something like that. And like 10,000, that would be a very small city. Okay, so that's what I would say the difference between a city and a town. So we don't have villages in Canada, but we still use the word village for some things, right? Like the name of a place close to Calgary is Sunshine Village. It's a ski resort. It's a place to go skiing, right? It's in the mountains, about an hour drive away from Calgary. It's called Sunshine Village. Okay, like it's called a village because there are some buildings, right? When you go skiing, there's like a ski shack, or what's it called? Yeah, a ski lodge. There's like a ski lodge, like a big building, where people put on their skis, and there might be some smaller buildings around there. That's called a village, right? A ski village. Also, we have a store here in Canada called Value Village, right? It's a second-hand store, a thrift store. Okay, that's where you can buy cheap clothes or other things if you want. Actually, it's not that cheap. It's overpriced. I think everything there is a little bit too expensive, but it's still cheaper than, most other stores. Okay, Value Village, right? So we use the word village. Everyone in Canada knows what a village is and what the word village means. But for like most things, like we don't use the word village to describe like a place where people live here in Canada. Okay, now take a look at this. Would you say this is a town or a village? Well, remember what I said, the three things, right? Small, remote, undeveloped. Is this place small? Well, it looks pretty small, right? Is it remote? Well, we don't know where it is, but there might be some fields. So let's say it's remote. Okay, now is it undeveloped? Well, I mean, this looks pretty developed, right? Look at these houses. There's a big church here. Would these houses have internet? Probably. They probably would, right? So I would call this a town, personally. I would say this is a town. But is this in Canada? No, this is probably in Europe. It looks like Europe, right? Now, in Europe, they have villages, right? Also, the word village can sort of mean an old place, like an old-fashioned place. Like these houses and this church, they might be a few hundred years old, maybe 1,000 years old, right? So that's another sort of a meaning of the word village. When I think of village, I also think of sort of an older place, right? So Europe has villages. Now, the people in Europe call them villages, right? I would call this a town, but, I lived in Germany, and Germans use the word village when they speak English. And when they talk about their places in Germany, they use the word village. So, I guess they have villages in Germany. Also, I think the UK, in British English, I think they would have villages in England, right? I think so. I could be wrong, but I think they have villages there. But here in like Canada and the US, we don't have villages, right? We have towns. We have very small towns, medium towns, big towns, cities, but we don't have villages. Okay, now what about this place? Well, this looks like it's in the mountains, right? It could be a mountain village, but it looks pretty developed to me, so I would use the word small town. A small town in the mountains. Is this in Canada? Well, I don't know. If it's in Canada, I would say town. Maybe if it's in Switzerland or something, then, I might call it a village, right? But thing is, so geography is also a factor here. Like in Canada and the US, we don't have villages, but in Europe, they do have villages. So if you're traveling in like Switzerland or Austria, yeah, maybe you should use the word village. But here in Canada and the US, you shouldn't use the word village because no native English speakers call their hometown a village. Okay. Now, let's look at some more vocabulary that you might be interested to learn. Okay. County. County. Do you know what a county is? Not country. Okay. There's no R. It's county. County. Okay. Take a look at this. This is a map of Alberta. Alberta is a province here in Canada. I live in Alberta. Okay. Now look at all these little places here. What are they? Well, why is this map, why are they all different colors? Well, these are the counties in Alberta. They're counties. Now, to be honest, I don't really even know what a county is. It's sort of like a district or an area that somehow has borders It might have some form of local government, some kind of government. Maybe they share police, a police force, or maybe they share, ambulances or something. I don't know. Just, it's not very important, but the term county, you should know what it means if someone talks about a county, right? Like, look at this. Here is Nihil County. Nihil County. There would be lots of small towns in this area, right? Some farms and that kind of thing, right? So that's what a county is. Now, a municipality. A municipality is a town or a city with a local government. Okay, so all towns and cities, pretty much in Canada, I think, have local governments, right? So your city mayor, right? A city has a leader called a mayor, right? So that's what the municipality is, a government word. It's a level of government. Okay, here in Canada, we have 3 levels of government. We have the federal government, which is the highest government. That's like Justin Trudeau, right? He's the leader of Canada. And then we have the provincial governments. So here in Alberta, for example, our leader is a woman named Rachel Notley. Okay, she is the premier of Alberta. The premier of Alberta. Okay, and then municipal governments. That would be like at a city level or town. Like here in Calgary, we have a mayor, right? The city, elects a mayor. I think the city's at every 4 years or 5 years. I'm not sure. I don't vote for the city. I've never voted for a mayor. For me, it doesn't really matter. I don't really care. I'm not really into politics, local politics that much. I'm more interested in federal politics. But you know what? Even that, for me, politics is more like just fun. I'm not really serious about politics. A lot of people, they're so invested into politics, right? They get so angry. I hate that guy, right? A lot of people in Canada really hate Justin Trudeau right now. Right now, Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump, they don't like each other at all, right? A lot of people hate Trump. A lot of people love Trump. They love Trudeau. They hate you. For me, I like to observe. For me, I don't hate any politicians, right? The politicians here in Canada, I'm going to make more lessons about the politics in Canada because next year we have an election and it's going to be really interesting. So I'm going to make a lot more lessons, I hope, in the future about that. But you know what? I don't care too much. I think all our politicians are really friendly here in Canada. They're nice people. I know some countries, they don't have great politicians, but I think here in Canada, like all the guys are really nice. All the leaders of the parties, they're really nice people, right? So I don't hate anybody in politics. But anyway, what about the word metropolis? Metropolis. Have you ever heard that word before? Or metropolitan area. Metropolitan area. Okay, these mean the same thing. They are like a high population area. Okay, so a big city, like a big area with lots of people, that's called a metropolitan area. For example, the Greater Toronto Area, the GTA, okay, that is the name of a place with a lot of population, very high population around Toronto. Okay, so the actual city of Toronto is like that yellow piece there, right? So it's pretty small, right? I mean, Toronto's the biggest city in Canada, but then if you look at all these places around here, like Brampton and whatever, all these places, I mean, that contributes to the huge population, right? So that area has 6.5 million people. So that's a lot of people in a small area, especially when you think about Canada's population, right? Canada only has about 36, 37 million people, right? So it's a huge percentage of the whole country's population, right? So this is a metropolis. It's a metropolitan area. Okay, hey, I want to know, where do you live? Do you live in a town or a village? Or do you live in a city or a metropolis? Let me know down there in the comments, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.